Hey, what's going on, guys? Welcome, 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 welcome. This is the GM. I am your guy Boulanger, and we are in here early, 9 a.m. on a Saturday morning to talk ball, right? In truth, man, there's been a lot going on in Baltimore Ravens Nation this week. Actually, it's been a lot around the NFL happening, um, from team to team. A lot of teams have a lot of buzz around what's happening. A lot of teams have off-season hype. A lot of teams have a lot of off-season hope, and there is nothing different than that going on in Baltimore world, right? When you think about the Baltimore Ravens and where we are in the context of history, right? We are smack dab in the middle of a Super Bowl window. And that's why the messaging for me throughout this off season, throughout the preseason, throughout the regular season is Santa Clara. Be there, right? Uh, the Baltimore Ravens have been a team, as you guys all know, who have been hyped over the last couple of seasons as being contenders, right? And so we began this conversation about Destination Santa Clara on Monday, and we've come through the entire week with that same messaging, Destination Santa Clara. And so, we've talked about many, many things this week. We've talked about what could derail us if we're true contenders. We've talked about how we could take advantage of our advantages. We've talked about key pieces. We talked about the Derrick Henry signing, but we also talked about the Ardarius Washington loss. And so here we are on Saturday, putting all things in context because as we have had our schedule release, we now understand who is ahead of us. Now, we already understood who we were going to be facing off against, but now we understand and know the order of which those contests will take place. We know home and away games. We know time frame. We know dates. We know prime time events, so on and so forth. So as we have this conversation today, I'm not taking any of that into consideration. I'm not taking into context prime time games. I'm not taking into context home games or away games. I'm just simply lining them up and seeing who we can knock down. Because at this point, right, let me give you the context for this. At this point, home and away for the Baltimore Ravens is not going to matter as much. Now, I know in the context of football and having a home field advantage and the home crowd getting behind you, home field does matter. But what I'm saying is for this team in particular, we have to be above the need for a home field advantage. We have to be above the disadvantage of playing on the road in the playoffs because we have experienced both, right? I had this conversation with a couple of other people earlier this week, and then I talked about it in the live. I think it was Wednesday, maybe Tuesday. And my point was that I said we have to be above home field advantage and the disadvantage of being on the road, specifically in the playoffs. That was on the basis of we've had home field advantage in 2019 with the first round bye and didn't make a lot of progress. We had home field advantage in the 2023-24 season and made it through the divisional round and got beat in the AFC Championship with home field advantage. So we've been there, right? And then we have been at home in the first round last year and then went on the road in the divisional round and got beat. And in truth, I don't think being at home or away contributed to any of those losses. I can't, just really reflect and think about what happened in 2019. We just didn't play well. But in 2023, having home field advantage, we did come out flat in that divisional round game against the Texans and, balled out in that second half. We also came out flat in the AFC Championship, and it cost us. Yes, we did have some turnovers. We did have some poor coaching, but yet and still, home field advantage was not an advantage for us. Agreed. The theme of having home field advantage is beneficial. But I'm saying number one overall seed, home field throughout, has not paid dividends to the Baltimore Ravens. So I'm talking about we have to be above that, right? And then, of course, we did go on the road and get beat also. So, I think we have to be above those two contexts and just be willing to play ball against whoever we face off against. So whether you catch this in the live or you catch this in the record, you are appreciated. Thank you guys for coming through. Do me a favor, if you're listening this far into the video, please hit the like button. If you've never subscribed, please also do that. Let me first do some more housekeeping. I want to tell you guys I really appreciate the growth over the last 3 weeks. We've grown by more than 10% as we are approaching the 950 mark. I know that's not a mark many people talk about, but it's a mark that I never even considered getting to. So I'm excited to get there. And then once we eclipse that 950 mark, then we'll be looking for that 1,000 subscriber mark. And I know that's kind of the line of demarcation when it comes to YouTubing and content creation. But I told you guys from the beginning, I was not a YouTuber. Uh, but many people have encouraged me, if you're going to be on here making content anyway, you might as well look for those major marks. And so I appreciate the encouragement from other sources, man. One thing I've learned, man, is not many people are treating this thing like a competition. We actually treat it or approach it like a family, because we're all on the same team, no matter how we uh, commentate about our perspectives. We're all a part of the same team. We're all rooting for the same team, and we're all hoping for a chip. So that's the one thing that I'm learning. And you don't have to bang on any other channel. You don't have to bang on any other content creator, because everybody's doing their work uh, and their passion the way they see fit. And so, man, I appreciate you guys for kicking it with us, hanging out with us, and tapping in on a day-to-day basis. So, man, let's get into the conversation for today. All right. So when we consider the Baltimore Ravens schedule, now remember the context for this conversation is not home or away, not prime time, not timing, not time zones. It's just line up and play who you play, right? And when I saw the list, even before the schedule release of the Baltimore Ravens competition, this was before draft, this was before free agency, really got going. Man, I was concerned, right? I do believe in what the Baltimore Ravens have going on, but I was majorly concerned with uh the lineup that we're going to face off against this year. And so I have the Baltimore Ravens going uh 11-6 or 12-5. Now I know 11-6, 12-5 seem low for everything we've done this off season, but that's what I have us going. I always try to take a realistic approach. There is no such thing in this modern day version of NFL football where somebody's just going to go undefeated through the regular season and then undefeated through the playoffs and then undefeated, excuse me, into the Super Bowl. I don't think that's happening anymore. The last team that got super close was the Patriots, and we've seen how that turned out for them. And so when we turn our attention to week number one, it's kind of a rematch. That's not a rematch. Okay. We face off against the Buffalo Bills. Yes, it is the Buffalo Bills that defeated us in the divisional round of the AFC playoffs, right? We all remember how that game went. We all remember uh, the mishaps. We all remember what could have been different. And we all have hopes of the fumble and the catch being, the fumble and the no catch being different. Maybe we had a chance to have a different outcome. But here's the thing, man. You don't get to replay history. You only get to reflect on it. And so I'm not even going to call it a rematch because um, each season, each game is of its own, right? And a regular season win does not make up for a playoff loss. It just doesn't. As much as we want to make that equal, as much as we want to feel better about the playoff loss, a win or a loss in week one against Buffalo does not change what happened in the playoffs. It doesn't. This is big on big, great on great, good on good, however you want to contextualize it. This is prime time football at its finest, a week one headliner, Buffalo versus Baltimore. If you want to bill it, Lamar Jackson versus Josh Allen, by all means do that, right? But it really comes down to Josh Allen and his offense against Baltimore and the defense, Lamar Jackson and offense against Buffalo and their defense, right? And so, in the context of some get back, in the context of revenge, I think the Baltimore Ravens win this game against Buffalo. Um, I think, barring any kind of major unforeseen injury for either team, I think it's going to be somewhat evenly matched. And I think it's going to come down to what happens on the ground versus what happens through the air. Okay. And I know that we've lost some interior defensive linemen. So that's going to be something I think we're going to pay some attention to between now and June 5th. I'm going to go as far as June 5th because whatever work we do between now and June 5th, I think that's going to be it until training camp comes. And so I look for the Baltimore Ravens to add something in the interior. They're going to need it because you're going to see more teams ramp up their run game. But I do think the Baltimore Ravens beat Buffalo and get off to a 1-0 start. When we get closer to the season, we definitely will revisit the schedule. But as of right now, I do see a win week one against Buffalo. Just if we rested on the back of a familiar foe, this will be the third time we're playing Buffalo in almost a year and a half from last season to the start of this season. Actually, it will be within a calendar year if I'm thinking about it correctly. And so they're familiar. We're familiar. No tricks, only ball, right? And so I think we'll be super focused on stopping their run game led by James Cook. And then I think it'll just be Lamar and this offense's magic being able to pull out a victory. So we're off to 1-0 start. And then when we roll on, we go to week two and we have another familiar foe, right? And it's the Cleveland Browns. The Cleveland Browns are going to be kind of a tricky team this season. I think they do have the potential to be good, not just competitive, but I think they have the potential to be good. You have Myles Garrett on a new contract. You have Mason Graham going to be holding down the middle along with some other good players they have in that interior. You have solid linebackers. You have good players on the back end. And so their defense is going to be solid, just like they always are, led by, of course, Myles Garrett. And then they always have a solid offensive line. And I think it will be Joe Flacco to lead this team off this season. Joe Flacco has nothing to prove in training camp. He has nothing to um, really compete against. Joe Flacco is not competing against the rookies or even Kenny Pickett, right? The rookies are going to be competing against each other, and Kenny Pickett is going to be trying to hold off the rookies. So I do think Joe Flacco is the starter, and as long as he stays healthy, he will be the starter the entire season while those other dudes get ready to ball. And because Joe Flacco is the starter, they do have the potential to go deep. His arm is still live um, and active. And so, we saw Jerry Jeudy come alive last season, looking brand new with the Browns, looking like a number one wide receiver. Gave us some problems when we played him. And so I think knowing what they're going to be, knowing what they're going to do coming into the season, letting all of the other dudes, Pickett, Sanders, and Gabriel, compete. That part will figure itself out. And I think that the Baltimore Ravens wins this game as Cleveland integrates some new life at running back, as Cleveland is early in the season trying to find their full identity. Are they going to be a passing team? Are they going to be a running team? Or will they be well balanced? But I definitely know they're going to break a hard-nosed defense. So it is a game that we're going to have to come and play, right? But I do think Baltimore wins this game and they get off to a 2-0 start. All right. We get to my next game. Okay. In week number 3, this is Baltimore facing off against the Detroit Lions. Again, another game that is going to be good on good, right? There's no question that the Detroit Lions are going to be super competitive. Aiden Hutchinson is going to be back to bring his high-level edge rushing. So that's going to be a high level of concern. They've added some nice talent to go along with Hutchinson up front. And we understand that they're solid on the back end as well. And so this is going to be a game, man, where Detroit's not going to beat themselves. They never do. So unless Jared Goff has one of those 4 or 5 turnover games, interception games, we're going to have to fight this team to the very end. I think that because Baltimore got off to a good start, 2-0, I think this is a game they lose against Detroit. Because sometimes Baltimore has trouble against teams that are complete. What I mean by complete, they're well balanced offensively and defensively. And Detroit is that. Detroit has a top 3 to 4 offensive line. They have a really good running back in Jahmyr Gibbs, who I think will be coming off of suspension. The hope is that he's a little rusty, having not played, but then that could just mean he comes out fresh. He's a guy who can do it all, catch it, run it between the tackles. He has good speed. He's even faster in game than you would think. They have a number 1 level wide receiver. They have a really good tight end. And we definitely have had trouble covering good tight ends. So when it comes to the Detroit Lions offense and what they bring defensively, I think it's a game that we lose simply because Detroit doesn't seem to really have any weak areas. All teams have vulnerabilities, but again, when you consider the Detroit Lions offensively and defensively, from the trenches to the back end, from defensively from the trenches to the running back to the wide receiver to the tight end, they have everything that they need. And so I think it's a game that we lose. And because we lose in week number 3, we go and we face off against the Kansas City Chiefs. Um, the Kansas City Chiefs are kind of in a vulnerable spot this year. I think their mindset is going to be to disprove all of the criticism that they had last season during the regular season of just escaping with small victories, right? A last second field goal or a blocked field goal by their defense or a mishap by the other team. We saw so many games for the Chiefs last year come down to just very minuscule margins of victory. And so I think they're going to be out to try and disprove some things. I think Travis Kelsey will play more of a rotational role. I don't mean he's going to rotate necessarily, but he's going to take off some snaps. I think they're going to try and preserve him for later in the season into the playoffs. I think Rashid Rice will be back. That'll help their receiving core. They brought back Marquise Hollywood Brown. They still have Xavier Worthy. And I think they drafted a running back, if I'm remembering correctly. So they're going to be trying to do some new things. I think the biggest question for the Chiefs this coming year is how will that offensive line stabilize? They had left tackle trouble last year. And then, so therefore, they had to move Joe Tooney, their Pro Bowl interior guard. But then they traded Joe Tooney. So they have rebuilt their offensive line. So what would that look like? And then defensively, they lost a few players, but they always have a good team. And so we'll see. But I do think it's a game that we win. I think it's a game we win against the Chiefs, not in the context of, well, it's about time. I just think what we're going to bring to the table in week 4, coming off of a victory, is kind of a reset mindset. It's kind of a, what are we missing? What did we do wrong? It's going to be kind of a self-check of sorts to get ourselves back on track. Could they lose? That being the Ravens? Certainly they could. You could lose any of these games. But I do think they get back on track and they get a win. And so now they're 3-1. All right. So when we get to week number 5, we're going to face off against the Houston Texans. I don't actually remember what the Houston Texans did this offseason. I don't remember who they drafted. I don't remember any of that. But what I do know is, hold on one sec. But what I do know the Houston Texans did was trade away their left tackle. I do know that they replaced their right guard with somebody. And so you have another situation where you have a rebuilding offensive line. And the question is, will CJ Stroud take that next step in progression in his career? I mean, he's been solid, both seasons, his rookie season, his second season. But will he take that next progression, right? Will Tank Dell come back and be very similar to what he was when he left? They have a solid receiving corps. Don't know about the offensive line, which was their trouble last season. And then, of course, you still have Joe Mixon running the ball. Defensively, they're solid from front to back, right? They got bookend edge rushers. They got average to above average linebacking play. And then they have some elite level secondary pieces led by Derek Stingley. And so I think it's going to be a game we have to, claw and fight and scratch. Now, we bust their heads the last 2 times we played them. In the playoffs in 2023, and then last season beat them pretty easy. I don't think this is going to be that type of party. But I do think we get a victory. I do. I do think we get a victory against the Houston Texans, and then we move to 4-1. Now I know you guys are thinking, well, Belanger, you said we were going to go 11-6, 12-5. Well, let's keep rolling. Okay. So when we get down to week number 6, it's a game that I think let me think about this one for a second. Okay, let me think about this one. Hold on one sec. Week number 6, I'm not too certain about. Give me a sec. Let me pull this up. Let me look at something really quick. Okay, there. Week number 6, excuse me, is versus the Los Angeles Rams. This is a game I think that the Baltimore Ravens lose. Okay. The Rams are well balanced. The Rams are coached very, very well offensively, and they're coached very, very well defensively. They had two young thoroughbreds who just balled out last year as rookies, Jared Verse and Fisk, two guys who know one another from college, and they carried that chemistry over to last season. And barring any type of injury, I think they keep that same momentum going in year number 2. And we understand no matter who has been playing for us, we have had some trouble against front sevens who have two dynamic pieces, one in the interior and one on the exterior. And so I think that it's a game that we lose. Offensively, they got Puka, and then they added Devontae Adams, and you got Matthew Stafford, who's pretty accurate, can still throw the deep ball. I'm not 100% sure about their offensive line, but I think that taking into consideration everything, I think we lose this game against the Rams, and we fall to 4-2. All right. So week number 7 is our bye. I do not like the bye week being this early. I would always prefer our bye week to be between weeks 9, 10, 11, something like that, later in the season. But this bye week comes early. I think this is strategic by the NFL. I do. I think that moving that bye week early so we have that long stretch of 10 games is strategic by the NFL, but we go into the bye week on a loss, which could be beneficial. You say, loss is never beneficial, but a loss could be beneficial going into the bye week because it gives us an opportunity to kind of tighten up some things. I don't know when the trade deadline is, but I know it's going to be between week 7 and week 9 because it's typically in that time frame. So this may be a time where we have recognized what we need if we're going to make an all-in type move. And so I could see us making a move during this time. But we come out of the bye week off of a loss. We've regrouped, and this could be a trap game facing off against the Chicago Bears. Oh, no. Let's see here. There we go. Had to move some things around. Facing off against the Chicago Bears. I think this could be a trap game. Is my mic on? Did I just knock it off? Let's see. Yeah. Okay. Because it could be a game very similar to the New York Giants game last season, where we came out of the bye week. We did win against the Giants, but we did not look pretty, right? We still came out turnovers early. We still came out with some penalties early in that game. And we don't need to come out that way against the Chicago Bears. We need to come out. I don't think they're ready for what's called prime time. This is not a prime time game, I don't believe. But what I'm saying is I don't think they're ready for the big time football. And so this is a game we should come out and win. Okay. Um, there's some talk about them moving on from a couple of their veteran pieces, DJ Moore specifically. So I don't know if he'll still be there, but regardless, I think this is a game that we can make Caleb Williams uncomfortable, get after him a little bit. He doesn't like to turn over the ball, but I think this is a game we can pick. We can get a couple of picks on him or some strip sack stuff, and get out of this game with a win, moving us to 5-2. Okay, let's go down to. Come on, roll. All right. This next game is against Miami in Miami. I think that this could be a trap game. Also, I think it could be a trap game. I just happen to see that it is in Miami. Lamar Jackson typically has balled out against Miami. He typically has little to no issue with Miami. But this could be a trap game. If Tyreek Hill is still there, if Jalen Waddle is healthy, and Tua is healthy, this could be a game that it could be just bombs away, where their goal is just to outscore us. And with those two speedy weapons who can make plays in the intermediate downfield, they have a solid run game over the last couple of seasons. So offensively, when healthy, they're balanced. I don't know what their offensive line is constructed like, and I don't have any trust in their defense. So although it could be a trap game, I do believe that the Baltimore Ravens win this game and we move to 6-2. And so now we get down to a game in what week are we in? We're in week 10, face up against the Minnesota Vikings. This is a game that I think that we lose. I think we lose this game against Minnesota, although JJ McCarthy is playing his rookie season. By the time week 10 comes, this is if he's healthy, but by the time week 10 comes, he has 9 games under his belt. They were solid defensively last year. They were solid offensively last year, led by Sam Darnold. And so I think that the Minnesota Vikings can put that same type of team and effort on the field this year. And I think they beat the Baltimore Ravens, not because they're a better team holistically, but I just think that matchups and styles make fights. And, they got a big time receiver. They got a solid number 2. They have, a budding running game, right? They're not an elite running team at all, but they have a budding running game, meaning it's coming along, led by Aaron Jones, and their defense is rock solid. So I think they do beat the Baltimore Ravens in this game, and we fall to 5-3. I think I kept my count right in my head. I don't have a running total, but I think I got my count right. All right. So we face up against the Browns again. I think this game, the Baltimore Ravens lose. It'll be a 2-game skid. And I think that we lose against the Browns. Again, I'm not taking into consideration where the game is. I just think by this time, the Browns have found out who they are. I think that they have either moved on from Joe Flacco, or but because Joe Flacco has been balling, they found their gear. They've found out what works for Quinshon Judkins. I think that's his name. I know this is his last name. I'm not sure about his first name, but I think I got it right. The new running back. And I think everything's clicking. Defensive is clicking, balling. And I think they defeat the Baltimore Ravens. And they drop us to 5-4. Okay. New York Jets, led by Justin Fields. I don't know what they're going to be. Um, I know Justin Fields adds a dimension that they have not had in a long time, a dual threat, uh, a viable, let me say it that way, dual threat quarterback. I know they have two really good running backs. They have good wide receivers. Um, Not 100% sure about their offensive line. I know that the left tackle is brand new, and I know they've had some trouble offensive line wise, but their defense from front to still has a lot of elite level talent. I do think they get Baltimore Ravens some trouble, but two things are true. Justin Fields typically has some injuries consistently throughout the season. I think this late in the season, he's already missing some games. It has created some a lack of continuity in their offense. Therefore, that will impact their defense. I think it is a game that the Baltimore Ravens win, and we bounce back, um, and we get to 6-4. I think I got this count right. All right. Now we face off against the Bengals. I think coming off a contested, a hotly contested game against the Jets, this is typically when the Baltimore Ravens start going downhill on teams, and I think we get a win against the Bengals. Um, I think that there'll be enough film out there to see what the Bengals are doing, to see how they've integrated their new running back, to see how this offensive line is holding up, and to see where they're vulnerable defensively, which I think is going to be at the second and third levels of this defense. And so I think it'll be an opportunity for the Baltimore Ravens to take advantage of some things offensively, and then schematically be able to mitigate some of those things they're trying to do, that being the Bengals offensively. I think we come in, have a well balanced game. We play solid defense, and I think we get a win uh, in this game against the Cincinnati Bengals, and we move to 7-4. The week right after that, we're in that home stretch where we're kind of competing for the division, and so now we face off against the Pittsburgh Steelers. By this time, we either will know if Aaron Rodgers has turned around this offense, if it's Mason Rudolph or if it's Will Howard, who knows? But I think that by this time in the season, again, there'll be enough film on the Steelers because this offense will be new if it's Aaron Rodgers. This offense will be new if it's Mason Rudolph. It'll be new if it's Will Howard. And so playing them a little later in the season will give us an opportunity to see what they've done and be able to make some game plan and also game plan adjustments. Um, we will be able to see how they're defending the run, if they're as stout and sturdy as they have been, and also how they're defending the pass with the new addition of Darius Slay. I think the Baltimore Ravens have a new level of confidence facing off against the Pittsburgh Steelers. And so coming off a divisional win against the Bengals the previous week, I think the Baltimore Ravens also get a win against the Pittsburgh Steelers. Now we're 8-4. Well, the Bengals come up again. I think after having two grueling divisional games against the Bengals, then Pittsburgh, now we got the Bengals again. I think this is a game that we lose. It's hard to beat the same team twice in one season, but it's even more difficult to beat the same team twice in 3 weeks. I think this is a game that that the Baltimore Ravens lose, and we fall to 8-5. Next up is the New England Patriots. By this time in the season, they'll know if they have anything to play for. I don't think they will. I do like Drake May. I like everything that he's about. I like his skill set. I like his arm talent. But the New England Patriots still have a long way to go to put talent around this kid. And so I think it's a game that we bounce back, get a win, and move to 9-5. Okay. Now we're at the Green Bay Packers. I didn't mean to include the location, but we're going to Green Bay. It's probably going to be snow, uh, but I don't think weather is a factor. But I think we lose against Green Bay. I think we lose again, barring any type of unforeseen injury on the Green Bay side of things. I think that we lose to Green Bay, um, which drops us to. Um, I'm gonna need some more games because I think I missed a game as far as counting the numbers, but this drops us to 9-6. Um, okay, I can't remember where I lost that game at. I know we got Pittsburgh again, and I think this is the first season we that we do beat Pittsburgh twice. I must have added a loss and subtracted a win somewhere, but this is how I got us to 11-6. Um, I think this is the season that we beat Pittsburgh Steelers twice in one season, which is probably the first time we've done that in the Lamar Jackson era. Shoot, probably in the last decade. Nevertheless, man, in summation, I know that sounds like an unsuccessful season, but I think a few things are the factor for the Baltimore Ravens win loss and our contendership, right? Um, I still think we win the division with 11-6. I do. I just don't think we're at a top seed. I think when you look at the schedule, you got a heavyweight contender all season long, with the exception of a few games. Um, we know that the Cleveland Browns are trying to figure some things out, but they always fight us tough, and they seem to always take a game off of us, right? The Bengals, we typically um, have shootouts with them, but we seem to pull out the victory. Uh, but I think it is difficult to beat a team twice in 3 weeks. So I think that's why we split. But I do think we beat the Pittsburgh Steelers, and I'm gonna tell you why. By the end of the season, the Pittsburgh Steelers are either playing for something or they're playing for nothing. And if they're playing for nothing, I think smartly they're going to be vying for a top seed in order to get a quarterback. Yes, they did draft one. And even if they brought in Aaron Rodgers, right, he's not a long term answer. Mason Rudolph is not a long term answer. Could Will Howard be? Maybe. I don't think so. So I think that if Pittsburgh is playing for nothing near the end of the season, I think you'll see a different approach in that late season game, that last game of the season. And so I do think this is a season that we beat the Pittsburgh Steelers twice. All right. Which then puts our record at 2, 3, 4, 4-2, which should win that division as far as division record. Because the Browns, the Bengals, and the Steelers play the same exact opponents as us, with the exception of Kansas City and the Houston Texans, I think their fight is just going to be difficult, or just as difficult as ours. Um, and so I think the Bengals finish something like 10-7. I think the Steelers probably finished 9-8. And I think the Cleveland Browns probably finish somewhere like 9-8, depending on what happens at quarterback in Pittsburgh and quarterback in Cleveland. And I think that leaves us at the top. I don't know if that gets us the third seed or the fourth seed. But again, I started out saying what I was saying when I said it. I don't think it matters as much if we have home field advantage or we're on the road, because this is going to be the season where you have to beat who you face off against. I know that the ranking of the schedule is number 9. Um, but I think from what I can tell, all of the playoff level teams we played last year, I think we have the toughest schedule in the league. Again, I haven't gone to look at what Buffalo is playing. I haven't gone to look and see what the Chiefs are playing or Houston, all the division winners from last year. I haven't gone and saw what the Detroit Lions are. I haven't gone to see what their schedule is. I haven't gone to see what who won that division. The Rams. I haven't seen their schedule. I haven't seen Tampa Bay's schedule. But of all of the division winners, all of the playoff participants, I don't see another schedule in my mind that looks like ours. We have, Buffalo playoff team, division winner, Kansas City playoff team, division winner, Houston Texans playoff team, division winner, right? You have Detroit playoff team, division winner, Green Bay playoff team, Minnesota playoff team. Am I missing somebody? And then, of course, Cleveland and Cincinnati. Cincinnati was a fringe playoff team. They didn't make it, though. So it's just a super, super tough schedule. Let me close out with this thought, man. I think this is a must-win type of season when it comes to getting to the chip, or winning a chip, rather. I don't think that we can afford not to capture a chip this season, because I think this is the last iteration of this team this way. I don't think Mark Andrews is back after this season. I'm not 100% sure if Daniel Falele is back after this season. I don't think Patrick Ricard is back after this season. I'm unsure if a guy like D-Hop would return, or if they would even like him to return. I don't know if Travis Jones is retained. I don't know if Odafe Owe is retained. And we'll get deeper into this conversation on Monday. But this iteration of the team is done after this season. And so it creates a high level of importance that the Baltimore Ravens step into this season, wins and losses, and learn from each game. And especially learn from their losses. What can they correct? What can they improve on? And what can they get rid of? Last season, you did not see much improvement in the context of discipline and execution. We were kind of plagued with some of those things all the way through the season and even into the playoffs. And I think this offseason has to be an offseason of learning. It has to be an offseason of new implementation. It has to be an offseason of process. It has to be an offseason of growth. Because with the level of competition that we're playing this season, you can't afford to have any step backs. In fact, you need more people to step up this season than you've ever had in Baltimore. So listen, man, we'll continue this conversation on Monday, where we talk about the need to win, a must-win season for the Ravens. So listen, I appreciate you guys. Whenever you catch it in the record or in the live, I'm your guy Boulanger. This is the GM. Oh, and by the way, if you have not liked the video, if you have not subscribed yet, please do so. I don't know how much of this video per se that I will cut up and make into shorts. I may work on some other things, but again, I appreciate you guys. I'm your guy Boulanger, and now